I approach everything in the book of Genesis literally, everything in the entire Bible literally. And yes, there are figures of speech in there as well. There's everything. But I do approach the story of Adam and Eve as literal, a literal story. And I think Jesus even referenced to them and even referenced the books of Moses several times. And he never once said we should take it as an allegory or some kind of myth. It's actually interesting that there's over 200 categorized mythological, I say mythological, but creation stories in different cultures all throughout the entire earth. And it wasn't like there was communication like there is these days. They couldn't just communicate from, one part of the earth to the other that easily back then. Modern science, modern communication has only been around for a couple hundred years or so. It's amazing to think that all of this stuff has transpired the way it is. So clearly it's based off of these true events. Now, of course, the temptation, man's temptation and fall in Genesis 3 is really where it begins. The fall of Adam and Eve, the fall of mankind. The temptation from the serpent. Eve, obviously, her reply to Satan, the whole thing is being deceived there, is there. And then, of course, all of the human race hinges upon that moment. And we don't know what happened to the earth at that point. We don't know what it looked like in the perfect world, in the perfect garden, the perfect planet. But whatever happened after that, it was accursed. The entire earth became cursed. All things. Death came into being, so then things were able to start dying. You didn't have any dinosaurs dying before that because there was no death before that. There's all this stuff happened after. God confronted Adam and Eve with their sin. I think that's one of the most touching things is like, where are you? And Adam's like, I was hiding in the garden because I was naked and I was feeding. Who told you were naked? And so I don't think God stopped being intimate with Adam and Eve after that, though. It's like, I think he continued to teach them all about the things that he created. At some point, between Adam and Eve and Noah, obviously, people stopped wanting fellowship with their creator. And we'll get to that later. But because there's a verse that says that people started to profane the name of the Lord, or this is call upon the name of the Lord in some of your translations, but it really just meant they started to profane the name of the Lord, started to use it in the wrong way. But anyway, God curses, of course, man, woman, and the serpent as well. And at that point, Eve gets her name. And they get clothed with skins of animals. That's kind of the important thing right there. From the very beginning, God was telling them that he was going to provide their salvation. He was going to provide the blood of an animal. The sacrifice of an innocent animal was required for them to be saved. That's pretty big. It's pretty heavy when you read that in Genesis 3. Then just Genesis 4, of course, you have Cain and Abel, first murder, and there's a whole lot of sermons I've heard over the years of what anger can do and how that is, and God cursing Cain, and he moves out into the earth, moves away, gets married. So obviously they're having a lot of children, and those children are having a lot of children. We don't know how many people were on earth at that point, but there was a lot. Chapter 5 gives us the descendants of Adam. There's a whole genealogy in there you could study, looking at the name meanings from Adam all the way to Noah. It's pretty fascinating. Genesis 6 is the great flood. Well, the beginning of the flood anyway. Beginning as just knowing the man has gotten so wicked that God has said, I'm done. I'm going to start over. And I'm going to start over with Noah. And Noah spent years preaching to the people of earth, preaching to them to repent, that God was going to bring this flood and judgment, and that they were wicked and needed to repent. So he's really the first real preacher of the time in the Bible. It was Noah warning the people. God tells Noah to build an ark, and that ark becomes a way to save Noah and his family and all of the animals of the earth, all the species of the earth. There's a whole lot of creation science or creation. The Ark Encounter up in Kentucky. There's a whole lot of things you can get into studying, and that I post a lot of that kind of thing all the time because I really am fascinated by the creation story, the flood story, and all the things that God did and continues to do. Chapter 7, of course, God destroying the world with a flood, God inviting Noah into the ark, all of the ark, and the door is shut. The flood lasts 150 days. Genesis 8, Noah and his family leave the ark. God focuses his attention on Noah. He just says, he remembered Noah. I think that's interesting how that is. We don't really know exactly what happened to the earth at that time. Obviously, a lot of canyons, a lot of erosion, a lot of animals being relocated. We see skeletons of fish and water creatures that are on high top mountains that don't really belong there, other animals that are frozen in ice. Clearly, some really crazy stuff going on with the flood. Yes, I believe 100% in a worldwide flood, not a local flood, because in Genesis chapter 9, God gives us the rainbow, beautiful rainbow, gives Noah instructions that he will never flood the earth again with water. Doesn't say he won't destroy the earth again, because he will eventually with fire. And then, of course, Noah and his sons have this whole thing going on there. In chapter 10 is the Table of Nations. You read a whole bunch of genealogy. Sons of Japheth, Gomer, Ham, Cush, Canaan, all the way down. It's a pretty interesting chapter. And then chapter 11, we will get into next time with the Tower of Babel. God bless.